Hi boys and girls, it's Mrs. A. And today I'm going to take you on a nature hike. Watch carefully and listen so we can have some great discussions. We are on an outdoor adventure. It's a beautiful day. Look at all the rocks if you've learned about rocks and minerals. Look at the force of the water on the lake. Hi. Listen to the different sounds of the water, the birds. Whoa. Hope you're having a great day. The rocks are solids and the water is liquid. Estimate how many rocks you see here. What do you notice about the waves? Did you know the moon has something to do with the tide coming in, the waves? Look at the beautiful swans that came out on the water. What do you notice about them? Look at the gorgeous waterfall behind me. Hey, look down. Look at the thousands of tiny white little shells that have been washed up on the shore from the water. We're headed to a wooded area now. Look up. What do you see? It's a squirrel nest up there. It's bigger than a bird nest. What do you notice about the squirrel's nest in comparison to a bird's nest? There's some trees down low, but there's also some very big, tall trees up there. This is a pine tree or evergreen tree because it stays green all year long. Shh, there's a deer there. Do you see it? It's camouflaged so it blends in with the environment that it's in to protect itself. The deer is brown just like the trees. There's also lots of buds on the trees that the animals like to eat, and they're just blooming right now because of spring. This is called sumac. When I touch it, it feels very soft. And it's a reddish burgundy color. These trees have small twigs. They're thin and prickly when I touch it. This is a cedar tree, and it's green all year round as well. And the First Nations people have used the cedar leaves for years to make tea and for smudging to get rid of negative energy. Cedar is also high in vitamin C. In the past, in the longhouses, many First Nations groups, the Anishinaabe, would use the boughs of these tree branches as bedding. And then there's these, they're tall, but no leaves. Oh, there's the sumac on there too. And the birds love to eat the sumac. Listen carefully and see if you can hear the different types of bird calls. There are so many birds that are living in Ontario that have very distinct calls. I spy with my little eyes something up there in the top of the tree. What is it? Listen. Wait, look to the right. There's a squirrel up in the tree. And it's eating something from the branch. Look at the creek. The still water. This area is not moving in the water. You can see the reflections of the trees in the water. Look at how beautiful it looks. This is a different kind of evergreen tree. This is very rough tree bark. If you use a piece of paper and a crayon and do a rubbing, you'll see the texture on the paper. First Nations people use this type of wood, of the bark, to make longhouses. for their shelter. This tree is different. If I touch it, it's smoother. Look up and listen. There's some ducks. And the grass is green. There's a beautiful sunset. And here's the little creek with the water moving and flowing, as you learned about with liquids for science. And there's a mallard duck. See if we can get a little closer. And that's a male mallard duck because it has beautiful green on its head. There's lots of different kinds of trees. There's some branches that are red. We're coming across more squirrels' nests way up in the trees. Why do you think they're up there? Here's a squirrel's nest up close. I see lots of fluff inside. The squirrel collects things off the ground and then it brings it up the tree to make a nest. There's a squirrel right there. What do you think happened to that tree? Or this one? What do you think happened to that tree? This is a bridge going over some water so people can cross over the bridge. But you notice on this bridge, what shape set the bridges to stay stable? What shapes do you see? And if you've learned about structures, you'll know that triangles are used to reinforce and have the force go in a triangulation to hold weight. This tree has some interesting looking things hanging from it. Look at these. This looks like a rural area in the countryside, but it's actually in a suburban and urban community. Lots of buildings and roads and traffic. Now look at these. How do you think they would feel if you touch it? What do you notice up there? Estimate how many pine cones you see. See the difference between this green plant and tree and this one? You can see the river, creek, through the trees. And look, there's another squirrel. With all the squirrels that we've seen, what can you tell us that you've learned? Look, there's some more ducks. They've recently migrated back from a warmer climate. During the winter, when it's cold in Ontario, they fly along with other birds and butterflies to places like Mexico, where they can have access to food that grows in the warmer places. During the springtime, they fly back to their original place where they were growing up. Now that it's spring, you'll see more birds coming back. Some of these trees were planted by humans. Others, if you have learned about plants, you'll know that animals can carry seeds in their mouth and then bury them, hoping to find them again later. Sometimes they forget about them and then they grow. Other times, some seeds get caught on their tails and they fly. And the wind sometimes blows the seeds of plants so they grow randomly in the field. Look at this. How do you think it is feeling on your finger if you touch it? This is something called a burr, and they like to get stuck to your clothes if you get close to it. And they're also very, what's the word I'm looking for? You're right, prickly. Look at all the different types of trees out here. What do you notice? There's also these. They're very soft. And look at this. What does it remind you of? I stepped in this. It's mud. How do you think it feels? Oh, look. An animal footprint. That tree is chopped down. That's called a stump. What do you think they did with the wood? So I don't go to the stream by myself. I have company because I don't want to fall in. But I'm just showing you. This is gooey mud. Look at the river, or they call it a creek. See how it's flowing? There's a force flowing, and water creates energy. A long time ago, early settlers from Europe, pioneers, would settle along a riverside, and they've created a mill, if you've ever been to the pioneer village. The mill had a water wheel which turned by the force of the water and the kinetic energy, which then made electricity to make the wheel move and crush the grains inside the building. And energy from water is a renewable source. And renewable energy is preferred over non-renewable energy sources, which can harm the earth and take thousands of years to replenish. This is a beautiful sunset with the shadow and light. Look, there's a squirrel. But also look, there's something wrong here. What's wrong? Where should that garbage be put? Thank you for joining me on this walk, this nature walk. And I hope you learn lots of facts and little tidbits, and you think about what we've learned and make connections to what you knew before this walk began. Here are some critical thinking questions you may want to answer as a class together after watching the nature walk.